Welcome to the Foothills of the Smokies podcast, brought to you today by the Old Mill. Our historic grist mill, in continual operation since 1830, is the cornerstone of our spot right here in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains. We've been welcoming families for decades, and now we invite you to join us as we tell the stories of not only the people and what they do here at the Old Mill, but of folks from all across our beautiful region here in the South. I'm your host, Jimmy Proffitt, and this is Foothills of the Smokies. In this episode, the tables have turned. We've invited Beth Haynes to guest host and sit down with me to talk about my cookbook, Seasoned in Appalachia. Beth is a longtime friend, not only to us, but to much of East Tennessee. She grew up just down the road, attended the University of Tennessee, and spent more than 2 decades as an Emmy-nominated and award-winning journalist and local television news anchor. Today, she continues telling stories through her freelance work. Beth and I have collaborated on several projects, including one that featured none other than Dolly Parton herself. In fact, one of Beth's final interviews before this conversation was with Dolly. So I know I'm not only in good hands, but in very good company. Thank you, Beth, for hosting this episode of Foothills of the Smokies. Well, hello, Beth. How are you?
I am great. I am thrilled that we're finally making this happen. We've talked about this for a while.
I know. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you doing this. It's kind of weird being on the other side of the table. I usually sit over there, so this will be fun.
Well, I'm honored that you asked, and yes, we're gonna get to talk about you and put you on the spot for once. Really have loved just flipping through and reading the cookbook. You've done a wonderful job, and I know you have really poured your heart and soul into this. I mean, not just the information you see on the pages. I mean, the design, the layout, the pictures. Before we talk more about this, though, I want to take everyone back to your childhood. How did this all begin, those early days when you were learning to cook?
Oh, gosh, I was always in the kitchen. I mean, I can't think of a time that I wasn't with somebody if they were cooking in the kitchen. So if my mom was cooking, and my mom would never have told you that she was a cook. She didn't really enjoy it. She didn't like it. I have 3 older brothers. So there were 4 boys and my dad, and she just had to cook. And she worked a full-time job. And so things for her were, how quickly can I get this done, feed everybody and get cleaned up? And, then she had everything else, the laundry and all those things to do. So she never really thought of herself much as a cook. But she did cook, and she had some great things. I got my mom's meatloaf in there that I would help her make. I had neighbors, Mary and Charlie, that were almost like surrogate grandparents, I just spent so much time at their house. I was helping Charlie put the garden out, and I helped Mary put it up. Mm-hmm. So if I wasn't out in the garden with him, hoeing and planting and harvesting and weeding and whatever needed done, tilling up the garden, I was in the kitchen with Mary, and we were making pickles, and we're frying squash and all of those things.
Was there one recipe that you remember vividly?
Her rolls. Yeah, Mary's rolls. So I watched her make her butter rolls, what seemed like hundreds of times. So one day I said, Mary, I really need to know how to make these rolls. So we sat down, and she told me that I'd help her. And I remember always starting the yeast in a little mug that she had that was sort of a white, opaque kind of mug, and you could see the light coming through it. So I always knew when the yeast rose to this part, I tell her it's ready. So I just remember those things, and her bread and butter pickles. Iconic. I helped her make those every year. And looking back on it, I probably only helped her 7 or 8 times, maybe 10 times. But again, I sat down and wrote out the recipe. So I've got just a notepad piece of paper that has just the basic scribblings. It was her notepad, but she had me write it. She said, if you write it down, you'll remember it. So she would tell me what to do.
But that generation, especially, I think of my grandmother, they didn't necessarily follow recipes. No. It was just repetition.
She had a cookbook that was probably 3 inches wide, 4 inches tall, and just 1 inch thick. And that was the only cookbook she had. And everything else, she just knew how to make it.
And what would a recipe look like in one of her cookbooks? I'm sure it was just very basic information.
Was it really
exact?
Basic.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a printed book, but, I barely remember it. The only thing I remember her really making out of that were cream puffs. And it's what we would know of as choux pastry today. If I said to her then, could you make some choux pastry? She'd be like, make what? I mean, she wouldn't have known what that was, but in her cookbook, it was cream puffs, but it's French, it's choux pastry. So that's another recipe I got to work on to perfect that of hers. Yeah, and my grandmother on my mom's side, my Grandma Barton, was the same way. She never owned a cookbook, and she could make anything. I mean, at Christmas, she had what she called the cold room. So it was a room at the corner of the house that she would close off in the wintertime, so there was no heat in there, and it would get really cold, and she could bake all the cakes and pies at Christmas and Thanksgiving. And it was a bedroom. It was sort of a summer porch. And she would say, just go back in the cold room and get it off the bed. And you go back there and there'd be this whole spread of applesauce cake and apple pie and all of these things that she'd make. And never once saw a cookbook. Yeah.
Well, I love you weave all of these stories into the cookbook. You are a storyteller, just tremendous talent, but that's what you've done most of your career. You're a historian, you're a brand director here at the old mill, but you just have a way with stories, and I know food is certainly a great language for you.
Well, when I started my blog called The Appalachian Tale, I wanted to do that just to write. I just wanted to write something. And then the more I wrote, the more food kept creeping into the stories, because that's what we do. We eat. And there were so many stories told around the table and while we're cooking and all those things. So that's where I learned to be who I am, And so, like I said, the food just kept creeping in there. And one day I said, I'm going to write a book. And everybody said, well, what about? I don't know. I'm just going to write a book one day. And how are you going to do that? I have no idea. I'm just going to write a book one day. And then one day I said, I think it's going to be a cookbook, because that's kind of what the blog was turning into. And really, how are you going to write a cookbook? I don't know. I'm just going to write a cookbook one day. And, I just kind of left it open. It could have been self-published. It could have been just a piece of paper I printed out and put in a binder. It could be get with a publisher and do a full-on book like this turned into be. I left it open. I didn't put too many expectations on it, because I didn't know.
Been decades in the making.
Decades, and completely manifested just saying, I'm going to do this, and I don't know how.
Why was now the time?
I mean, it was pure luck being now the time. It's something that, I kept saying I was going to do, and even I was getting tired of hearing myself say, I'm going to do this. It's like, when am I going to do it? But in January of 24, we had a snow, very much like what we just got. We had about 10 inches where I live in Morristown. And so I was working from home that day. I'm very fortunate here at the old mill that when I need to, I can work from home. There's always plenty to do, And so it was snowing, and on my lunch break, I went out and I said, I'm going to make some snow cream. And so I had my husband take my phone, and he's recording it, and I make some snow cream, and we eat it, and I get back to work. I post the reel real quick. A quick edit, not much, and I post it, and I go back to work, and at the end of the day, I pick up my phone. I'm like, I've got a couple of hundred notifications. Like, that's wild. That's never happened before.
What did I do?
I know. What did I do? Yeah. Am I in trouble? And then after dinner, it was a few thousand notifications. And by the next morning, it had over 1 million views. It had 50,000 comments. I was like, I think this is viral. I think I've gone viral. And within a few days, within a week, it was at 32 million plays, 500,000 comments. I couldn't keep up with the comments. I was trying. I was reading comments, and I would screenshot some of them and post them to stories on Instagram, and just having fun with it. Because there were people that had some not so nice things to say, but people that just, of course, loved it and remembered it. That's what, we did with my grandparents, or my dad always made that, or whatever. And then some people were like, are you crazy? Why are you eating snow? You're going to
have those folks.
I know. And at that same time, Reese Witherspoon went viral with making snow cream. Dolly even jumped in there. Our good friend Dolly Parton, that pretty well.
What was it, though, do you think resonated with the snow? I mean, is it that bit of nostalgia? Is it that
I think
connection?
It was, I think the reason it went viral is because it was controversial a little bit, because people are like, what are you doing? I was in a newspaper in Cairo, Egypt for making snow cream. because they probably had
Because
never heard of that.
saw the snow is dirty. Like, what was the,
Right.
what was the whole
That was the controversy, was that the snow is dirty. And I'm like, it doesn't seem dirty where I live, and where I grew up, it wasn't dirty.
No.
You knew where the dirty snow was, and you avoided that. You didn't go to the dirty snow.
Or the yellow snow.
You knew better. You just knew better. Like, we're not dumb. We know what we're doing.
Which, by the way, that's in the cookbook.
The cook, yeah, it's in there.
Does share, and I know there's other controversies or opinions on what vanilla versus evaporated milk and how you make it. But for me, it was a connection. I mean, I made snow cream growing up, and I grew up in Athens, Tennessee, home of Mayfield Dairy. Well, the Mayfields were my neighbors.
Yeah.
So we had big snows. We would gather around the Mayfield kitchen. Scotty Mayfield would make snow cream.
Really?
For
Well,
us.
they had a brand, a flavor that they called snow cream. I don't know if it's still available, but yeah.
So I think everybody, at one point, especially in the South, not everyone, but
Yeah.
you had that experience. And I think it's a bit of nostalgia from your childhood.
Yeah.
So that was a no-brainer. You had to include that recipe.
Oh, I had to, because it was about 2 weeks after that went viral, and now it's been watched 36 million times. I still get comments occasionally on it that it'll start to trend a little bit again. About 2 weeks after that happened, a publisher reached out to me. And so I started talking to them, and then another publisher reached out to me. And I'm like, is this how it happens? Because I have friends that are cookbook authors. Like, this is not how it happens. But it may be kind of how it happens now. Things are changing so quickly with how content is created and where these people come from and their background and what they do. So it kind of sounds like a overnight success, but like you said, it's been years and decades in the making, really.
But that had to be confirmation that, okay, I've got a great idea. That this goes beyond a recipe, words on a page.
Right.
This is something that people will really gravitate to, because it's for me, it's not just recipes or cooking. It's your culture. You share a lot of your upbringing. You really help people understand the Appalachian way of life.
Right. And
was that intentional?
It was absolutely intentional. And I also pointed out in there that this is my version, my interpretation, because I know that there's so many facets of Appalachia. And I talk about there being North, Central, and Southern Appalachia. I've never lived in Northern Appalachia. I grew up in Central Appalachia, so I knew the way of life there. And then moving down here to Tennessee almost 30 years ago, I saw some different things in Southern Appalachia. A lot of similarities, but a few nuances. And it was all based on what was available to you seasonally and what you could grow there, what you could raise there, what you could do there. So...
And really was survival.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Pure survival. That's what it's all about. And that's what I point out in there, too, about the difference in Appalachian cooking or Appalachian foodways and Southern foodways. And that Southern is, to me, is a lot about the flavor and some of the techniques of cooking. Whereas with Appalachian, we're involved in every single step of that foodway. So we're going to raise it, grow it, harvest it, hunt it. If we need to build something to do it. So like a couple of years ago, I built my own greenhouse. I started gathering up old windows and doors and pallets, and I built a greenhouse for about $200. Not that I couldn't afford a bigger greenhouse. I could have bought one if I wanted to, but I wanted to do it myself.
Yeah.
So it's all about that grit and determination and that self-reliance and doing these things because one, we have to, and two, we can. We're going to figure it out.
But you have a whole section on butchering. You were a kid.
Yeah.
Butchering.
Oh, yeah.
Kids lined up, all with knife in hand. You never see that today.
No, if we put that on video today, people, it would go viral, probably. I probably had, it was a butcher knife in my hand, and I'm 10 years old. And I'm there helping cut up the meat. When my dad would hunt, we were skinning the deer in the backyard and in the kitchen with my mom cutting up the meat. We're butchers.
Now, I never butchered,
because we had to be.
But flipping through, like you talk about gardening, there's so many, not memories just for you, but I think they spark memories in those who read the book and cook with the book. We had a garden. You talk about kind of the community effort in your home where you grew up. There was a farmer behind our house. We didn't own the land, but he let us, build a garden and harvest and use the produce. And my mom did can. I did not learn to can because she had a canner malfunction,
Oh,
and I guess it exploded, and I was traumatized
yeah.
at that point. But I think for me, as I flipped through it, um, I have not regret is not the right word, but I just wish I would have stood in the kitchen longer with my
Yeah.
grandmother. Really leaned into that a little bit more. My brother did.
Yeah.
And my grandmother's very busy. She didn't really have time to teach, and her kitchen was small, and she didn't follow a recipe. But one Christmas, he finally wanted to learn how to make her banana pudding.
Yeah.
And so he had a VHS,
Yeah.
handheld
A big old
recorder.
recorder. Yeah.
And so he finally, documented that. But yeah, I'm like, but I have those memories, but it's almost like, oh, I wish I would have, what I would give for a few more minutes with her. And I know you talk about what you would give to cook one more meal with your grandparents or your parent. I'm flipping through and I'm thinking of my grandmother.
Yeah.
And I know you talk about, especially those that have left us, what you would give. One more meal.
Well, and this
that you
felt
had.
really important to do because, I mean, just about everybody I talk about in the book is gone now.
Yeah.
They're my ancestors now. And
Not to get you choked up. Sorry. But this is just as much about preserving, because what's at risk here? Losing those stories,
Right.
losing those memories, losing those
Right.
traditions, right?
And in my family, my brothers will they're amazed that I remember these things because they're like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that happening. And so they look to me as being the family historian too, And so this is a way to do that, record that family history and the food and the memories and the culture and all those things.
I love you also, the sayings, which are so true to, the Southernisms, and that speaks to in Appalachia. But you have notes in the margin that begin with, I reckon you could.
I reckon you could. I reckon you should.
Who said that? Who said
Oh,
that?
gosh, I don't know. I always heard it. I mean, I always heard it. There were lots of things my grandma would say that that probably weren't grammatically correct, but it was her speech. It was the way that she talked. And so, yeah, I imagine that's probably where I got it was grandma.
75 recipes. How did you decide what to include and what to cut out?
I really had to weed out a lot because I've got a lot of recipes. So I'm very fortunate. My aunt on my dad's side helped take care of my grandparents until their final days. And so she had my grandmother's recipe box. And so one day I'm at her house and I'm literally just pulling each card out, taking pictures of it. So I've got a record of all of her recipes. And so I knew I had a ton of recipes there I could use. Mm-hmm. Things like my mom's meatloaf, my dad's barbecued chicken, those I had to recreate because I didn't have those recipes. And it was just something that they made. And my dad would make the barbecued chicken at the fire hall or at the church for 500 people, not 6 of us. So I didn't have a recipe broken down to make it at home. And didn't even have his recipe for 500, but I knew a little bit about how he made it. Mm-hmm. So things like that I had to really work on. But some of the others, it was just pulling out these recipes and start testing them and playing with them and just getting a feel for them.
Mm-hmm. If there was one recipe, you could only include one recipe. What would it be? It's like your favorite child.
Oh my gosh. I don't
speaks
know.
to who you are.
Probably the bread and butter pickles because I've been making those since I was a kid. So
was that with Mary or was that?
That was with Mary. Yeah. So the recipe in there is well over 100 years old. I've of course tweaked it a little bit myself over the years just because of where I could get the spices and things, but the technique is all what she taught me.
And he talks a lot about Mary, and you have a picture.
I do.
Mary, you found one.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't have many. I had just a couple of pictures of her, but one with us together. And it was the last Christmas that she was alive. That was fun. I'm almost unrecognizable. I was like 24 years old or something in that. So,
well, I wonder what she would think about this. Did she have children?
She did. She had a daughter, and so her grandkids and I were friends. Okay. We always played. They came up every summer, and so when she was canning in the summer, and they were there, or I was over there, same thing. She worried about that canner literally exploding. So she'd make us get out of the house. We'd have to leave and go play outside, which they were there. We were going to go play probably anyway, but she was always really cautious with that and didn't want us in the kitchen if she was using the pressure canner. And then later, as I got older, she got a little more comfortable with me being there. And then I would help her can the beans or can the pickles or corn or whatever we were doing.
Yeah. But it's just so vivid, just your storytelling, which is, certainly one of your strengths. But I mean, I'm in the cellar with you. I'm in the pantry with you. I mean, really, you really paint the picture and you share those moments.
Well, and when
it's kind of like a photo album too. I mean, it really
it is.
I
I was really happy to be able to include a lot of family photos and things in there. Just tuck them in places where I could, just because you get a sense of the story when you see the people and you see the picture. And when I talk about things like the cellar at Mary and Charlie's house, I really can smell the earthy, cool smell of it. I can feel that. It's so ingrained in my memories that I hope I never lose that,
What are you hearing? What are people saying about your cookbook?
Oh gosh, I mean it's been great. I've so happy with the feedback I've gotten from people, and one of the things that I really, really enjoy is that independent bookstores that have picked it up, the owners, the people working there are buying the book, and they've got a huge selection of books that they could choose from that they're going to purchase, and they're choosing to add this to their collection. So that really speaks volumes to me. That's special.
And I know you've been doing some book signings, even went home.
I did.
Do a book signing.
Yeah.
That must have been just so special.
That was fun.
A trip down memory lane.
Well, I've gone from Birmingham, Alabama to New York City, and still have a few more stops. I've got some more things planned that I'm doing, but going back home was really fun. And that was probably about a week after it came out. I was trying to get it lined up to be pretty close to it coming out. So I had 4 stops back home and getting to see my brothers. Both of my parents are gone, and all my grandparents are gone.
Did they all cook?
No, they don't. Other members in the family do, but no, they wouldn't think of themselves either as cooks, really.
Saying that, you remind me of my brother. My brother's a great cook. I mean, he's self-taught.
Yeah.
That he's very passionate about food and cooking and being in the kitchen. And I, was the younger sibling, so kitchen was a little too crowded. But
I'm the youngest, and I was the only one left in the kitchen. My brothers, there's 5 years between my oldest brother and me.
Yeah.
About 5.5 years. So we were pretty close together there. But they would be outside, and as they got older, they were all working on cars, and I'm working on making, Yorkshire pudding. So, yeah, I'm getting out a cookbook, and I'm like, what's this? Let's figure out how to make this, And so I was always just, after I, was literally learning from my grandmother how to make mashed potatoes, I'm, then getting in cookbooks and just playing around and experimenting and just seeing what I can do.
Yeah. Well, I love that you really have preserved Appalachia. That's what you've spent the last couple of decades, through your blog. And you've developed quite an audience. And it's spans across the South, across the nation. Now with this bigger platform, I know you're more mindful of how you present Appalachia, but what do you want people to know most about it? Because there's so many, for me, especially when Southern, there's all these stereotypes.
Right.
So I know you're mindful of preserving this culture, this way of life, but what's the big message? What do you want them to take away?
That we're going to survive. No matter what happens, we're going to survive. I mean, we're going to be able to make it through whatever happens, the good times, the bad times, because we just know how to get by. You hear things about the language is kind of disappearing, and I don't have much of an accent. I did growing up. I mean, it was.
Did you strategically try to lose that accent?
No, I think teachers in school tried to pull that out of us. And it was supposed to be more proper English, and you didn't wash your clothes; you washed them, and even people debate how you say the word Appalachia. And depending on where you're at in Appalachia. Right. Central Appalachia, it was more Appalachia. You get into Southern, it's Appalachia, and they will fight you over how you say the word Appalachia. And you know what? I don't care how you say it. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't offend me. Just say it. Just say it. I think Appalachia is having a resurgence, is having a moment, a light. We have battled that stereotype of being poor and uneducated and backwards and hillbillies and all these things for all these years. Major media didn't help that at all, because that was the story that they tell
Right.
about how poor these poor little kids in the mountains of Appalachia are, and we've got to help them out at Christmas and feed them. And of course, the last couple of years with the major flooding that has happened throughout the area, these are now some poor Appalachians that are trying to get by and trying to rebuild and try to come back. But again, they're going to survive. They know how to.
That resiliency.
Yeah.
It's in the blood, right?
Yes, it's in the blood. I think it is. It's in the soil. It's in who we are.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I want people to know, is that Appalachia is multifaceted, and that we're gonna make it. We're gonna survive, and I'm glad it's having a moment. I've been trying to preach Appalachia for a decade now, and so when the publisher came to me about the idea for the book, it was because I'd seen a couple of other books pop up that were Appalachian themed, and so I knew it was kind of having a moment. Again, I felt like it was taking forever to get here, kind of thing. Yeah, I think even before I signed a contract, I told them what I want the title to be. And I came up with the title by sitting down with Laurie, my friend here, my boss, at the old mill, and we were sitting down one evening, and I told her, I said, hey, I've got this opportunity coming up, and a publisher's reached out to me, and I think I'm going to do this book. And she's like, what are you going to call it? I'm like, I don't know. I got to come up with a name, or they'll probably come up with a name. I probably won't even have much input in that. I wasn't sure how much input I would have in the book itself. So she's asking me some questions, and then I don't remember which one of us said seasoned. And I was like, seasoned in Appalachia.
It's perfect. Many meanings behind the word seasoned.
And it just, it was one of those moments where I just knew as the words came out, like, that's it. So the next day I sent a message to the publisher, and I said, I've got a name for the book. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how this works. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, or if you whatever you do with this, but I want to call it Seasoned in Appalachia. And I got an email back right away. Love it. Like, that was it. So that was the name from the get-go. As we got working at, I was able to do all the photography. I prepared everything, styled everything. John, that I work with here every day, that's part of this podcast, he's helping with all the tech on the podcast, and he's a photographer here at the old mill. And so I said, can I hire my own photographer? And we threw our hat in the ring and got to do it. I mean, we found out about 2 weeks before we started shooting it that we got the job. We didn't really know. We sent in some test shots and some work that I'd done here at the old mill, and kind of auditioned really for the job. And then I just got an email one day and said the photo shoot needs to be between this date and this date. And I'm like, oh, we got the job. John, we're going to be busy. We've got some work to do. And so we shot not all 75, because one of the test shots made it in the book. The green tomato pie was one that we shot.
Which is a sweet take.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a tomato.
Yeah. So you take those green tomatoes at the end of the season before the frost gets them, which mine got them this year. I was out of town on a book tour, and I came back and all my green tomatoes were just mush. But anyway, so I didn't get to make one this year. Those green tomatoes at the end of the season that are still kind of small, and they're not going to make it. They're not going to grow big enough to be a full-on tomato before the frost hits. Pick those. Those are perfect for making a pie. And it's almost like flavors of like an apple pie. It's a spicy, sweet pie.
It's a little bit of a surprise, though. It's not what you expect.
You have no idea that you're going to get that out of a green tomato. Yeah. I even have a mock apple pie that you use zucchini squash for in there. So there's similar flavors in that and similar techniques. But again, Appalachian way, we're going to use what we've got, and we're going to make something out of it. We're not going to waste it.
And now you'll have the blueprint.
That's right.
For a cookbook. So I have to ask, is there a second volume coming soon?
I hope so. I've just been saying that out there. I've been, I'm going to manifest it again. I want another book. So I'm going to work on a book proposal, which I didn't do with this one. So the traditional method is you're going to put together a book proposal. Well, maybe I don't. The traditional method is you write a proposal, which is going to be an outline of a book. It's going to be probably the first chapter, multiple recipes. Then you get an agent, and they go out and they shop the book to different publishers and try and get you a deal.
Yeah.
But they came to me, and I had to choose between the two. And so I'm really happy with the publisher I went with, which is Quarto. That was the first one that reached out to me. And I liked their process. I liked what they had to say. I liked the support they were, giving me up front and showing me what this would be. And so they may come back to me with an offer for another book.
Good. I would think so. I mean, it seems to be doing very well.
It's doing well. They told me it's in its second printing at this point, so I don't know if they printed 10 books to begin with or or a million. But hey, I'm going to go with it's in its second printing. I'm happy with that.
Well, and people now, social media is great and YouTube is great. You're great at writing and storytelling, but it's fun to watch you in the kitchen. And you have an outlet. People can actually log on
Yes. Yeah. So
to YouTube.
I'm mostly active on
cool.
Instagram, and all that kind of shares over to Facebook. And that's on my personal account. I do stuff here at the Old Mill too. So I'm creating content here.
But they can cook with you.
Right. Absolutely. So I'm posting reels all the time on Instagram, especially. Of just, I'm going to make some biscuits today or just whatever. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So we're now kind of morphing those personalities of the Old Mill personality, which is a little more business-like with my personality and these things come together as we create more here. But I'm hoping the publisher, like I said, will come up with another offer maybe. This is still, I'm still out there promoting this book. So it's still new. It just came out in October. It's 6 months old. So it's still a baby.
Where can folks find, like, if they want to meet you in person? And
Well, I've been doing all kinds of book tours. Coming up here this week, actually, I'm going to be in Kentucky at an independent bookstore up there doing a book signing. And then I come back and I do the Dogwood Arts Festival in Knoxville, which is a huge event every year. I know you have covered the Dogwood Arts Festival many times. I've only actually attended probably twice of anything, and so I'm excited to be there. So we'll be on the main stage talking about the book and the process, and books will be available afterwards. I'll be signing. I've got some events at the end of the month back home again, so I'm going back home. So I'll do an independent bookstore there and the Rocktown History Center, which I went to get a picture for the book of the Bell Snicklers.
Oh, yes.
So I talk about the Bell Snicklers, and some people know
I'd never
what that
heard
is.
that before.
Right. A lot of people. It's funny. It's something that showed up the TV show The Office. And so some people know it from that. They've heard about what the Bell Snickler is, but it's kind of like a Krampus kind of character. I heard about it from Mary growing up. And so in the Shenandoah Valley, up until about the 40s, this idea of this character that would be coming around a couple of weeks before Christmas to stop by and check on the kids to see if they've been good or not.
How terrifying.
And I know, and would report back to Santa whether or not you've been good. And he might have some treats for you. If you were good, he had some treats in his pocket. If you were bad, he had some coal in his pocket. So it's those same traditions of like getting coal in your stocking. So these things kind of morph, but he would be dressed in furs and a mask and twigs and carrying a big stick and so he was kind of terrifying. Yeah, he
seems
was
frightening. I was afraid of Santa Claus, so I can't imagine if this guy knocked on my door.
Yeah, As he would knock on the door, then the whole family would kind of get involved in making sure that the Bell Snickler was happy when he left. So mom's making some cookies or whatever, cakes, something to have out. Dad was probably getting out the moonshine or whatever he had available. And so Mary would tell me that her brothers would go Bell Snickling every year. And they'd go several nights leading up to Christmas. But it was not uncommon for them to come home and pass out in the front yard. And they'd have to carry them in so they wouldn't freeze to death, and get them in the house and put them to bed. They'd been out Bell Snickling and having a good time. They came home full of joy.
Yeah. Again, one of many stories that you share, I think is great. Thank you. Thank you for helping me remember some of my childhood and my grandmother and our way of life. I'm from Tennessee, East Tennessee, so certainly Southern and familiar with Appalachia, but this is...
Well, I was going to flip the table for a second and ask you, so what in here really spoke to you and reminded you of something? Was there one recipe in particular or story?
Well, just some of your cornbread, and I was going to ask you, my grandmother made hoe cakes, and I know there's a recipe for a fried cornbread, I think, with hot water.
Hot water cornbread.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but she would just, and I don't know if it was an easy way to make, but she, and you also talk a whole lot about cast iron skillets, and you don't have any of your relatives. I have my grandmother's cast iron. I have a cast iron skillet. I have a flat, I guess what she made the hoe cake on.
The griddle?
It's just a little tiny circular disc, but it's a cast iron. So for me, I don't know. that was something I can still see her, making the
Yeah.
hoe cake. So I didn't know if that was similar to the pone or the.
It's similar to a hot water cornbread. So, like we do fried cornbread here at the old mill. And so it's just self-rising cornmeal and buttermilk. And you make a batter that's just thick enough that you can pour it, but not so thick that it runs, but not so stiff that it holds together. So you kind of you got to let it set and get that balance in there just right. But then you fry them up about 3 minutes on each side, and it's just those two ingredients, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Hot water cornbread, you're literally just taking cornmeal and boiling hot water, and you're mixing those two together, and it's going to hydrate that corn and start to cook that corn pretty quick. And while it's still pretty hot, you kind of start forming it into just a little disc, and then you're going to fry that. If you fry it in bacon grease, you'll get a little extra flavor from that, but typically I just do lard or just grease, and then I like to drizzle honey over it. So some people are like, with sweet cornbread or sugar in your cornbread's another controversy. I need to do some reels of
feelings.
I know I should just like pour a whole bunch of sugar on a reel into the cornbread and watch people go nuts. But I like a little sugar in my cornbread occasionally, and I justify it by one. That's how I grew up, because we had Jiffy cornbread at home. My mom made cornbread. It was Jiffy. Yeah. Which is probably the first ingredient's probably sugar on the box, and then cornmeal, because it's so sweet but so good. Yeah. But I also justify it by it's going to help your cornbread brown. So that sugar's going to caramelize. You're going to get a little extra crispiness to the bottom. Okay. And the top is going to brown and be crunchy. So like a teaspoon of sugar in your cornbread doesn't hurt a thing. And corn is starch, and starch is sugar. So it's not. It's. I mean, people like say, "Well, go." No, you can't do that. But it doesn't hurt anything. Right. Doesn't hurt anything.
I do keep bacon grease in my refrigerator. Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
And my, the seasonings. And by the way, if you want to know anything about a cast iron, you do talk about the proper ways to clean a cast.
Sure. Yeah. I take
soap is okay.
Soap is perfectly fine.
There's been a lot of discussion about that with cast iron.
I mean, 100 years ago, soap was not okay, because people were still making less soap. I mean, one of my neighbors, the first woman, Mary Ann, that I remember really, when I look back at who taught me how to be, it was Mary Ann. And she was as mountain and as country and as Appalachian as anybody could be. And I would help her make a lot of soap in the backyard. And, it wasn't too far from that was the outhouse. And, and between the two was the garden. And so I'd be out there helping her make a lot of soap. So lye soap was very aggressive on dirt. Still, I mean, if you use it today, it's gonna take the stains out. It's gonna take the seasoning right off your cast iron. Anything acidic is gonna take the seasoning off your cast iron. So, if you're cooking something with tomatoes or anything acidic like that, you can do it in cast iron, but you don't leave it sitting in there, because it's gonna start to eat that seasoning away.
He also talks about the proper care for your cutting boards and wooden spoons, which are definitely staples.
I've seen that trending here lately, that people have been talking about, because somebody went viral, I think, boiling their spoons. Do not boil your wooden spoons. There's no need to. I mean, they boil them and go, look at all this stuff that came out of course, stuff comes out of it. Yeah. But don't boil them, because now what they've done is all the natural oils in the wood have been cooked out of that spoon, and it's going to split, and it's going to break on you pretty quickly. So no, just soap and water, dry them. Don't leave them sitting in the water. Same thing with cast iron. Don't leave it sitting in the water. Do not. No, I will fight you if you put it in your dishwasher. Do not put your cast iron in the dishwasher.
And then the leather britches. You've never heard that term. You need to definitely look at the recipe and the history there with the green beans. I'd never heard it referred to as leather britches. I know it has different names.
And shucky beans or shelly beans, people will call them. And those, I think, are more the beans that you dry and will shell them. But these are whole green beans that I'll string up. I have some hanging in my house right now. I've got some in the freezer that I cooked, and then I didn't want to. I'm not going to throw out what wasn't eaten, so I've got some from Christmas that are in the freezer that I'll bring back out, for dinner one night. Yeah, you just string them up and dry them, and then when you're ready to cook them, I joke and say you cook them to death to bring them back to life. So you got to cook them for hours, just like you would dry beans anyway. Sure. But then they just get this earthy, rich flavor to them that's unlike just regular green beans that you're gonna, open a can and cook. Which we can green beans too; those are perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with canned green beans. But
Yummy green.
I save these leather britches just for special holidays or special occasions because they're not. I don't have as many of those.
I do have just some really quick questions.
Yeah.
I want to ask you.
Okay.
Biscuits or cornbread?
Oh, biscuits, because I make them probably more often. And I've worked so hard on biscuits. I mean, to get to the point where I can make you a biscuit.
Uh-huh.
So,
okay, biscuits.
Yeah.
Favorite smell from your childhood kitchen?
Oh, bacon grease. Mm-hmm. And not my kitchen, but Grandma and Granddaddy's. So when we would go visit my dad's parents, you could always count on waking up to the smell of bacon frying and coffee, so those are smells that instantly, if I walk into somebody's house, when a mama lives there because you smell that bacon was cooked that morning. I mean, you just smell it, mama lives there, grandma lives there.
I would ask sweet tea or unsweet, but I know the answer. It's sweet tea.
Sweet tea.
But how sweet is correct?
I think everybody you ask is going to be different, but probably around here we'd say sweet enough to stand a spoon in it.
I love that. Recipe you make that makes you homesick?
Oh, my dad's barbecue chicken.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, the recipe that surprises people the most?
Probably something like the green tomato pie or the mock apple pie, because they just don't expect, especially when they eat it. I mean, it's one thing to see it, but if you actually eat it, you have no idea that you're eating zucchini squash in a pie, in a sweet pie that you would think was an apple pie and have no idea. Yeah, that's probably what surprised them the most.
I know I had open fire cooking last year and didn't even cook the green tomato. Just had a slice of tomato and put sugar on it, and I couldn't believe how the taste transformed.
Yeah.
I was thinking kind of a salty, more hearty, and it was delicious. It was almost like a bite of apple.
Yeah.
So, anything else I didn't ask you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I appreciate you doing this. This is fun. I've had a few opportunities on the tour to sit down and just have a conversation, which I'm going to do this weekend.
Good, yeah.
In Knoxville with Amy Campbell.
Yes, she was wonderful.
Yeah, of the Tennessee Farm Table. She's a great podcast. I've been on her podcast and just a wonderful person all around. So fun to be around and talk to. And so it's been fun having these opportunities to sit down and talk about it. And it's just kind of wild. I look at it and go, that's my name.
Yeah,
there
you are. And it has 2 F's in Proffitt, by the
does
way.
to
I
us
posted on social and I was like, oh, the auto captions.
But it didn't originally. So I've done research on the Proffits, and originally it was 1F, 1T.
Okay, see, I was just going to, way back.
Yes, yeah.
Being off.
So all the way back to the ancestors that came over here. Originally, they were the first prophet, Sylvester Proffitt, was part of the Jacobite Rebellion.
Oh, yes.
And was captured and was sent to the United States as an indentured servant to the Pleasant family in Virginia. And he served out his 7 years, fell in love with the daughter, married her, inherited the plantation.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. And then about 3 generations later, somebody becomes a minister, moves to North Carolina, and suddenly all the money's gone. I don't know what happened.
Oh, boy.
I don't know what happened. Somewhere in the early 1900s, all the money disappeared. So it was kind of fun to go back and research, and I love doing family history. That's why I'm the historian here at the Old Mint, too.
I
love it.
And it's so good. Go get a copy. I honestly, it made me want to cook. And
great.
I'm not really
okay. See, that's
in the kitchen a lot, but I was like, I've marked recipes that I want to try, and especially the basic biscuits. You made me feel like, I can maybe do this.
You can make a biscuit.
Yeah.
Biscuits are intimidating. There's always somebody in the family that is the biscuit maker. Like if there's going to be biscuits at the dinner, that's the person that's going to bring them. But they want to teach you how to make biscuits. They want you to know how. Now, they may not tell you exactly everything how, because they don't want yours to be better than theirs. But
my grandmother made them. I wish she would have showed me how.
Yeah.
I mean, she was just, but everything, and I don't know for you growing up, every meal was a feast. Whether it was breakfast, lunch. I mean, she'd have butter beans, a big bowl of them, breakfast, big bowl of grits. We didn't do bacon in Southwest Georgia. She did sausage links.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of bacon. And then her sausage gravy was to die for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember my second plate, my mom would be like, that's enough.
You know, when we were butchering, I mean, there were some of us that were outside working. There were lots of people in the house working too. And there would be this full spread middle of the day. You know, you got the bulk of the work done because you started early. It was cold out when you did it. You got there just before daylight. But yeah, you'd sit down to this huge meal. And I remember going to Grandma and Granddaddy's, and every Sunday it was pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, rolls or bread of some sort. If there weren't rolls, there'd be a stack of light bread on a plate, so there was always bread at the table.
So the kitchen was always busy. I mean, it's like the cycle.
Constant. Yeah, no, you
cook, clean,
and start over again. And as we're cleaning, we're talking about what we're going to eat on the next meal. That's
crazy. Just such a way of life.
Yeah.
Food certainly connects us all. And thank you. This was fun, and I'm excited for you. And I cannot wait to cook with this, and then to see volume 2.
Yeah, and of course it's available here at the Old Mill.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest. It's probably the biggest sales here of anywhere. And I mean, it's just in the stores. We're promoting it, yes, but I'm always careful about. I don't want to cross that line of personal and work kind of thing too much. But opportunities like this to talk about it is fun. And
you weave them together too.
Yeah, and I'm happy the Old Mill is so supportive of this and what I've done, and happy to see me keep going with it.
That's exciting.
All right. Thanks, Beth. I appreciate it so much, you being here. You've been listening to Foothills of the Smokies, a podcast that celebrates life, heritage, and stories from in and around the Smoky Mountains. Foothills of the Smokies is proudly sponsored by the Old Mill in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, where tradition and taste come together. Our executive producer is Laurie Faulkner, sound engineering by John Stewart, and I'm your host, Jimmy Proffitt. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love for you to leave us a rating, share your thoughts, and let us know what you'd like to hear next. Thank you for joining us here in the Foothills. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you soon.